Hey, this is Riley McManus from the World Football News Network. Today we are with Sam Franco from Mouths of the South podcast and Dirty South Soccer. We are here talking about Bruce Arena's hire, Jurgen Klinsmann's fire, and what do we do after 2018. So my first question is to you. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be on with you guys and glad to give my thoughts on U.S. soccer, something that I've been following for a long time. Waking up, obviously the '98 World Cup, but remember waking up at like 2 a.m. watching games in 2002 from the Korea-Japan Cup. So something that in my normal daily life as a sports radio host here in Athens, Georgia, I've come under a lot of fire for saying I would take a U.S. World Cup win over a Georgia national championship in football. So yeah, it means a lot to me, and I'm happy to be with you guys talking about it today.
We're glad to have you. Appreciate you being on. So we've seen this Bruce thing before. He's obviously been the head coach of the U.S. men's national team. Started in '98 after the World Cup, just complete and utter disaster. Got brought on. When he got brought on, he was 39th in the world in ELO rankings, which is the FIFA rankings suck. So ELO's a little bit more, accurate, whatever. He got some pretty big wins early. He beat Mexico. He beat Germany. His first World Cup was a quarterfinal. He had some great moments as head coach in the United States. He was a handball away from the semifinals in the World Cup. Probably should have beat Germany, but we didn't. Whatever. My question is to you. What can we take away from Bruce Arena? The good things from Bruce Arena's 2002 World Cup.
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, that 2002 World Cup is, and I'm going to say recent history here because I'm not talking about in the 30s when the U.S., finished in, third or whatever in the World Cup. But his run in 2002 is the greatest run I feel that U.S. has ever had at a World Cup for a number of reasons. One, you beat Portugal, which kind of took the world by storm, and that was in the opening game. Everybody's like, whoa, look at this young U.S. team with guys like Landon Donovan and DeMarcus Beasley, these young kids. And I think that's when Donovan had that disgusting bleach blonde hair, but but just look at these young kids. And that was one thing about Bruce. He wasn't afraid to play those kids. He had a pretty veteran roster as well with guys like Jeff Agus and players like that had been more established. Brian McBride also won, but he wasn't afraid to play the kids, and that was a big thing and a big step forward for the U.S. I know that they end up also drawing against South Korea and losing to Poland, but they still end up going on to the round of 16 and beating Mexico, and that was probably the biggest win in U.S. soccer history up to that point, because you beat Mexico in the round of 16 to advance to the quarterfinals of the World Cup. And as you mentioned there, that handball by Torsten Frings in the Germany game in the quarterfinals, where you lose to the 1-0 on a Michael Ballack header, and that's all well and good. But yeah, it really is tough thinking back on that and thinking about that handball on the line that wasn't called. But still, that was the U.S.'s best showing in a World Cup, and I would say even still to this day that's their best showing in a World Cup, and getting to the quarterfinals was such a huge thing there. But I think Bruce Arena, one thing he's going to do is he knows the landscape of U.S. soccer like the back of his hand. He is not a guy that is coming in here with a lack of experience or coming in here without knowing the landscape. So I think that is a big key, because when you fire a coach this close to a World Cup, you can't have somebody that's starting over or somebody that doesn't know what to do. So Bruce Arena, in his time in MLS, he's keeping up with things. He knows what's going on and what it's going to take to get out of the hex, because Jurgen Klinsmann, with his experimental tactics in the biggest game of the year, has put the U.S. in a very big hole here. So I think that Bruce Arena was the perfect man to come in and temporarily do this job. And hey, who knows? We say temporarily, but what if the U.S. goes on in 2018 and ends up having a similar performance to 2002? Then I think maybe you look at Bruce, if he wants to stay on as coach, you leave him in there. But that's getting way ahead of ourselves. I'll just say this, that Bruce Arena is a guy who is perfect for this short-term job for right now in terms of getting the U.S. into the World Cup.
Yeah, I like what you said about him coming in with experience and the know-it-all about U.S. soccer. I was listening to Outside the Lines with Bob Lee. He was talking to Taylor Twellman. Taylor Twellman said it best. This is a Band-Aid job. Mm-hmm. This is just to stop the bleeding, kill all the criticism, get the United States to the 2018 World Cup in Russia. That's all this is for. And we'll worry about a head coach after Russia.
Yeah, no, you're 100%.
Like you said, if he's good and he wants to stay, let him stay. He's done great things for U.S. soccer. And now, some of the bad things he's done for U.S. soccer. After 2002, he had some World Cup qualifying struggles, as, what got Jurgen Klinsmann fired. He lost to Mexico, Honduras, and Costa Rica, and he drawed Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. You don't lose to Honduras and Costa Rica if you're U.S. soccer. We're the top two teams in CONCACAF. You don't draw Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago at home. We're one of the top two teams in CONCACAF. It's something that you don't do. Lose to Mexico at home, draw Mexico at home, lose on the road, it doesn't matter. It's Mexico. But some of the struggles in the 2006 World Cup, couldn't get out of group stage. I mean, some of the things Bruce Arena couldn't accomplish or couldn't get done, that's some of the people's worries going into the 2018 World Cup. It's some of the things he can't get done, some of the teams he can't beat, going on the road in these different, time zones and altitudes and different hostile environments. That's one of the fears that many people have, that Bruce Arena can't get done and can't qualify for 18.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. And I'll say this about, teams like Costa Rica and Honduras. Back then, those were bad losses. But now, I think those teams have come a long, long way. Costa Rica, we saw what they did in the last World Cup, getting very far, losing to the Netherlands on penalty kicks. So just a team that has come just miles from where they used to be. I think the rest of CONCACAF and the rest of kind of the world is catching up. We've seen teams like in the Euros. We saw an Iceland team, a Wales team do really well. So I think more and more we're starting to see these smaller countries catch up to bigger countries. I still agree with you that U.S. and Mexico should be the class of CONCACAF and should be able to qualify for the World Cup out of CONCACAF with relative ease. And one thing that I will say about Bruce Arena when compared to Jurgen Klinsmann, Jurgen Klinsmann's biggest enemy as U.S. Soccer's head coach was his ego. He let his ego get in the way too many times. The Landon Donovan thing in the 2014 World Cup, that was a joke that you don't bring Landon Donovan, especially when you need that kind of experience meshed in with your youth. I got and really liked the fact that the U.S. brought Julian Green to the World Cup. I thought that was a very smart idea because you want to get some of these young players ready to go. But, Chris Wondolowski over a Landon Donovan just didn't make any sense at all to me. Jurgen Klinsmann's selection on things like that was very, head-scratching at times. His ego in terms of thinking he knew what systems to play and things like that got the U.S. in a lot of trouble at times. And against Belgium in the round of 16 of the last World Cup, what did he do? He abandoned all of his flashy tactics and went back to what U.S. has done best for years, and that's withstand pressure, and go on the counterattack and hope for something good to happen. And I think that even right now, trying to switch U.S. soccer, and I know that it's a process, and you have good young players like Christian Pulisic coming through, and Jordan Morris, who, I don't know what Jordan Morris did to Jurgen Klinsmann to not, be getting call-ups, but the Darlington Nagbe thing as well, where Nagbe said he wanted to spend time with family, which we all know what really happened. He was tired of not getting selected by Jurgen Klinsmann over players that he thought he could be better than, so he decided to kind of take his ball and go home, and I don't necessarily blame him for that, but Jurgen's insistence on sticking with certain guys and not giving some other guys a chance. Main guy for me is Michael Bradley, who I think is a very good player in a certain position, but Klinsmann continuously tried to play him too far forward, and there were guys that I think that, especially when you look at Michael Bradley and his propensity to turn the ball over when asked to do too much. He did that a lot against Mexico. He's done it a lot. He had a just god-awful World Cup in 2014. So I think sticking with certain guys and thinking that he knew better than giving some of these other guys a chance. Benny Feilhaber, what happened to him? I mean, he's having a really good run in MLS the past few years, and you don't even give him a call into the team. So that's something that Bruce Arena will not do. Bruce Arena is going to play and call in players that are playing on good form, no matter what league they play in. You know, that was one thing too. Klinsmann had a very contentious relationship with MLS. You're not going to get that with Bruce because Bruce is coming from MLS. So I think that's
from LA Galaxy.
Of course. So I think that's a huge bonus here. And I think a lot of players that might have had the door shut on them for playing for U.S. Soccer under Jurgen Klinsmann get revitalized a little bit here. And I'm talking about the Feilhabers. I'm talking about Darlington Nagbe. Even Jordan Morris, who, like I said, where's he gone? So I think that Bruce Arena, while there is some bad, it can't be any worse than what Jurgen Klinsmann was doing.
Yeah, I like your point about Jurgen's ego and Jurgen's this and that in certain leagues and certain positions he thinks players should play. Michael Bradley's not a number 10. He's not a right or left midfielder. He's a center defensive mid. He's a number 6. He's supposed to sit in front of that back line, kind of like a Javier Mascherano type player.
Of course.
He's a quarterback. He needs to have the field out in front of him so he can make those passes. He's not going to dribble through the midfield.
He needs to have somebody that he's feeding. Like he needs to be feeding a number 8 or a number 10. He doesn't need to be the number 8 or the number 10. When you're asking him to do that much in the attack, you're taking away from what he does well, and that's, like you said, kind of be that field general there in the middle.
Yeah, it's not like the U.S. doesn't have number 8s or number 10s. The U.S. player pool is deeper right now with Jurgen Klinsmann than it ever was with Bruce Arena. And he can plug in many players in those positions, and it will work if he keeps Michael Bradley at the same position he plays with Toronto. We keep talking bad about Jurgen Klinsmann. Let's talk about some of the good things he's done for U.S. soccer. He started off, when he took over the job, they were ranked 38th in the world in 2011. He won the 2013 Gold Cup. He has away wins against Germany, Bosnia, and Slovenia. Slovenia. European countries are hard, man. Gets us up to 10th in the ELO rankings. Then comes the 2014 World Cup. A win against Ghana, a draw against Portugal, and a loss against Germany. Group stage, managed to get out of the group of death. Great. Now you get to the Belgium game. And before we get into the Belgium game, you brought up the point about his World Cup roster selection. There is no way in 2014 that Chris Wondolowski was better than Landon Donovan. Julian Green, yes, get in there. Get the young kids in there. Get a 19-year-old. But Chris Wondolowski, I just don't understand the call. But, you know, when you get in the World Cup, you just have to roll the dice and deal with it. But when Chris Wondolowski missed that shot, whole U.S. soccer community wondered where was Landon Donovan. Because Landon Donovan 9 times out of 10 would put that away.
No, just go back to the Algeria game.
Exactly. So the 2014 World Cup wasn't what we had hoped, but it got a lot of U.S. soccer fans pumped and excited about, you know, where this team was heading. That we competed with a team like Belgium. That we only lost, 1-0 to Germany or 2-1?
It was, I don't think we scored. I thought it was 2-0.
Yeah, we had a relatively close game with Germany.
Yeah.
And we had a, you know, really close game with Belgium where we were, you know, a Chris Wondolowski goal away. Now, you get to some of the stuff he'd done after the World Cup. He had 2 huge away wins against Germany and the Netherlands in friendlies, days apart. Bobby Wood, that's his emergence right there. His first 2 international goals were against Germany and the Netherlands, both in a country that are not the United States, which is huge. And whoever found Bobby Wood, I applaud him, because Jurgen Klinsmann gave us, you know, a striker, which the U.S. desperately is in need of. You get to, you know, some of the other stuff he's done. He lost on the road to Panama, lost on the road to Ireland, lost on the road to Costa Rica. So it's kind of one step forward, one step back with Jurgen. He does really good things. He does really bad things. And